Welcome back to Now I See. We're continuing to discover Catherine and Jonati's journey into Christ's light. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me again.
Thank you.
The beautiful part about, or one of the parts about the story is my father-in-law. So at the time he was diagnosed with cancer.
Newly diagnosed while we had been in attendance at the church, but he didn't know.
He didn't know for we weren't.
So can I just wind it back a little bit? So when you're 12 and 13, your parents were separating.
Yeah.
And so when you were 12 and you got close to your Sunday school, it was during the time you spent with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
So then they divorced and you didn't spend time with your dad, is that right?
I basically spent from my childhood up until 12. 12 to 13 is that 1 year I spent on the weekends with Dad, but as soon as that divorce took full swing,
yes,
it lasted 4 years, and I learnt to divorce my dad with my mum in that experience. Okay. And it was a very uncomfortable space for any child to be caught in the crosshairs of. But from there, I had built a lot of independence. Any girl raised without a dad would do that out of rebellion and all the rest. And I turned 21, and of forging my own path, I had decided to move to Dubai. On my mum's encouragement, actually. She presented the opportunity to me. And with that, my father was caught wind of the news and was pretty livid. By the culture, it's not acceptable that I would move overseas, live on my own, work in such a climate. And he, out of the blue, just made an effort. So we went at 21 on a daddy-daughter holiday to Fiji, actually. And we hung out to make up for lost time. But it was a little too late, but it was still great.
Yes.
We rekindled for about a year, but one more argument and the inability of emotional intelligence to express each other well, coupled with so many triggers of history, and we fell out again.
Okay.
So it was a very small stints, but very powerful ones with my dad from 12 years on. And the final experience was more when I came back. My dad blew me away. I had gone through some hardship before I had arrived, and I didn't know that he knew my progress as an adult. But he knew I had bought my first property, and he knew that it was not in good shape, and as a welcome home gift, he wanted to give to me what he'd been long giving my other siblings.
Okay.
So he helped me renovate and got in the hands, tiled the floor, and
it was awesome.
It was a beautiful time to have that gap filled, and we enjoyed our relationship for about only two years again, until another falling out, and the inability of how to get through that effectively without cutting ties, essentially. So Dad was very in and out, but in enough to have met Jonati.
Yes.
And my parents are great to have understood the value of, being unified for the sake of their children. And at this point, while they hadn't spoken for over a decade, they did unify for the sake of our wedding. And Jonati did get to build a fantastic relationship with my dad, and I never imagined meeting a man that could meet all the criteria to be the handyman as my dad was, but be gentle enough as I hadn't seen, and all the boxes, and understand the first generation Australian and the cultural expectations. It was a beautiful arrival to find someone that could stretch across all of those categories, and he connected fantastically with my dad.
Yes, so Jonati, you were saying about, so then you'd come to St. Luke's and you were saying something about Catherine, your father-in-law.
So we were disconnected from Catherine's dad for I think 2 years, and then he was unfortunately diagnosed with cancer.
Yes.
So we reconnected through that we reconnected through that. But he hadn't known anything about the 2 years what we'd been going through and attending St. Luke's.
Wow.
So prior to this, 3 years, or I think it was just before we disconnected, he had asked me, he said, I want my grandson to be baptized in the Coptic church. We're sitting at his dining table, and he always used to sit like this. And then I said to him, the Coptic church? I know nothing about the Coptic church. Nothing, no way. Yeah. Don't forget about it. And then he would try and negotiate with me and all this kind of stuff. And I'd, no, forget about it. Talk about something else. And that was our last conversation about that. So fast forward 2 years, and you know, I see him in the hospital, and he's in his pretty much his deathbed at that time.
Yeah.
And I said to him, and he was really down. I said to him, I've got something to tell you. We both did. And I said, we've been attending a church for the past year and a bit, and we are going to be baptizing Zedekiah, my eldest son, and we really want you to be there. And he says, oh, okay. And I said, he said, what's the church? I said, oh, St. Luke's. And he hadn't heard of St. Luke's because St. Luke's was new.
Yeah.
And I said, it's a Coptic Orthodox church. Honestly, he put his head up. And it's almost like the cancer went away for a huge moment. And he said, really? And I said, yeah. So we've been attending a Coptic Orthodox church, and he looks at Catherine. And he could not believe it. And I said, Zedekiah will be baptized Coptic Orthodox, and Catherine and I as well.
That's amazing.
And he cried. He was just so happy. So happy, and we were so happy to get to share that moment with him.
Yes.
And then I told him, I said, remember that time when you asked him? I said, I remember, it's the first thing I thought.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah, so that was the beautiful moment that we got to share with him. And he was able to come out of hospital for that day. So I got up in the morning, helped him get dressed, because we didn't realize, I don't think he realized how weak he was until so I went to the hospital early in the morning, and he was struggling to get dressed, so I helped him with that. Put him in the car, got a wheelchair, got the pass, went to church, and he was just so happy.
Yeah, I remember he got up and spoke, and my father has been in front of many microphones and chairmans of many boards and presidents of many associations. So he's always been on a platform to speak, and truth be told, he's been absolutely terrible at it. So bad. I think his effort between the Arabic and the English, he can speak and write very well, but public speaking wasn't his thing. And that day, unrehearsed, he got up on the microphone and he spoke out of his soul. Everybody in that church felt it. And I'd never heard his heart like that. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really nice.
So that was a huge part of our beginnings at St. Luke's, was getting to share that moment with him. And also my father as well also attended St. Luke's for a service while he was, because they're currently in Fiji, or I think bouncing between Fiji and New Zealand. But he also, my mum and dad came to Sydney, and we took them. I really wanted to share with them where we were at and show them church and everything. And they came. And Dad's a very religious guy, and he sat in the service and he understood what was going on. And he came out, and I said, what do you think? Like, it's not our culture, but what do you think? And he said, I don't remember his exact words, but it was more along the lines of your relationship with God. He said, I don't care where you are, as long as your relationship with God is strong. And that's what he's always preached. Is your relationship with God, strengthen it. If you're coming to this church and it's doing that, keep coming. Keep coming. So he was really happy for us.
Yeah, and that you got to share it with those people that in the beginning of your journeys, weren't exactly what you had envisaged how it would end up for both of you.
The crazy 180 spin on that is that I specifically had met these priests that were my age, that were practicing in the Orthodox faith, that validated my experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did not feel suffocated that every priest was going to be of the same mentality as my parents. For the first time, there was priests that were ridiculing that sort of behaviour that I had been subjected to, or judgment, or where it was spoken of to me. So it was very validating and very refreshing, and I didn't know how to perceive the faith anymore when that was cast out. Now there was a blank slate, and I was interested. And it was very good to see my father's impressions on me with empathy for a change.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and I think we were totally different people when we reconnected with your dad. We were just in a different place. So it helped to reconnect. We understood forgiveness, really understood forgiveness deeply. So it made that easier to reconnect with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was a huge part, like I said, a huge part of our beginnings.
Can I say, my journey with forgiveness sounds very different. Forgiveness, I feel, is implying something's wrong or something's right. It's again back to judgment. And I think my state of forgiveness is more a full circle of empathy and acceptance.
Yeah.
That's my journey with forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's understand it needed to happen how it happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So big part of our beginning. And then on the funny side, it's not funny, but we were joking around because I was going every Sunday, and sometimes if she wasn't awake, I would get up and go.
Yeah.
I'd just leave it behind, and she would call me. I'm sorry, babe, I'm in church. Bye.
And I would be like, really?
And then, so when we were at dinner, we were out at dinner one time, and then we're just joking around, and she says to me, "Oh, this will be so this is so funny that the tables have turned. It'll be so funny. You're probably going to become a priest one day." And I said, "Oh, funny you mention that. I was asked, or so it was offered, a deacon to become a deacon." She starts laughing at the top of her head. She was like, "What?" And I said, "I wouldn't rule out a priest either. I mean, I wouldn't rule it out." We're at dinner. She's cracking up laughing, and I said, "I'm dead serious. What are you laughing about? I'm dead serious. I want to be a deacon." And I told her all the reasons why, and I see the other guys up there, and they're serving, and their son's right next to them.
Yes.
That's true
That's so
leadership.
powerful, yeah.
Leadership right there, being a father. And I thought that was beautiful. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to as well. And I never want to be the guy just sitting in church consuming. I want to be someone giving back, serving people as well. So she's cracking up laughing. I said, "Don't laugh. I'm dead serious. I want to be a deacon." And she said, she couldn't believe it. She was like, "What?" I said, "I'm serious. I'm dead serious. The bishop is coming and he's going to ordain me as a deacon."
And then I fell over.
And then she fell out of her seat. And I just left the room.
I didn't believe
She didn't believe me. Until the day, it happened.
Wow.
Yeah, she could not believe it. But yeah, it's again how
Incredible.
deep we grew into it. And
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, that's enough time. All the time we have for this episode.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing, and please join us again for the next episode of how Catherine and Jonati have come to find Christ.